Guys, thank you for sending money to Rhino. He deserves money. Give him money. This is not me trying to push you in any way, shape, or form. This is just me saying potentially at gunpoint, give him money.
Give me money or I set a data center to your area. Oh, lordy. Okay, well, you ready to be depressed?
Always.
First story. Judge to baby. File an asylum application.
What?
Oh, we're on a hype train level 2.
Why would it...
Thank you for that. That was bad timing.
Why would a...
Jump point 1.
Why would a
thank you.
baby... What?
A 1-year-old baby appeared in immigration court without legal representation this week in Arizona and received an instruction. File an asylum application before the next hearing or face deportation.
What? Did the judge... Hold on. Who was the fucking judge? Did they not... How did they...
Oh, thank you for the 5 community subs, Gaming Landers.
There is so much about that statement that confuses me and makes me angry.
Yeah, very much so.
Sakura says, somebody who shouldn't be a judge. I have harsher words.
So, yes, I agree, but I feel like there is... I feel like the judge should just be like, I am moving for continuance until there's some representation here.
Also, how did the baby not have representation? That's like a thing that that's supposed to be a constitutional guarantee.
Okay, so there was... Well, okay, first off, it's a constitutional guarantee, so it doesn't apply to foreigners. They don't have the same rights under the Constitution, so they are not guaranteed representation. However, the government had a contract with an agency that was supposed to be representing unaccompanied minors. So, like, at the very... Like, you might be shit to the asylum seekers, but, like, if you get a child in the system, children don't know their rights. They don't know how to ask for a lawyer. Just give the kid a fucking lawyer. That was the whole thing. They had a contract with an organization that was doing that. They canceled the contract, the Trump administration. And the organization... Because
we got to get rid of the illegal babies, I guess.
Yeah. Do you know... Okay, for a while there was no contract. They got sued because that's just unconscionable.
Robert Adset pointed out, by the way, that's false. Non-citizens have the same rights as citizens under the Constitution. The Constitution specifically says people, not citizens. That's actually the word that's been used in court to argue.
I ain't no law talking guy.
I ain't no law talking guy.
I was wrong on that. Maybe I'm just thinking because there are a lot of Canadians that people make fun of because they'll be like, I'm not saying anything because I got my Fifth Amendment rights. And it's like, no, you're in Canada. That doesn't apply. We have a similar thing in Canada, but it's not the Fifth Amendment. So you need to learn what the fuck your shit is. I don't know which one it is. It's in the Bill of Rights, but I don't know which one it is. But yeah, so whatever happened, they lapsed with, like, they canceled the contract. They didn't sign a new one. After a while, they were sued. There was an injunction. They had to sign new contracts or whatever, instead of just going with the agency that was already doing it, which, by the way, that agency continued representing people pro bono in the interim. But because of the shitstorm that this is, quite a few kids fell through the cracks. So they gave a contract to the 2 new organizations. One of them is the USCRI, I think, and the other one is so the 2 new contracts were, one was to the USCRI, the other one was to an organization called ARE Rescue. Does that sound familiar to you, Cyrus?
ARE Rescue?
Yes.
No, it doesn't, actually.
That is the anti-human trafficking organization founded by sex pest Tim Ballard.
Oh.
So, not only do they not actually prevent sex trafficking, in fact, there is some good reason to think that they increase demand for trafficked children with the methods that they use. So, like, it is likely that there have been children that were specifically trafficked to meet the demand that they were creating. So not only are they bad at their main thing that they're supposed to be doing, but they also have zero experience doing legal representation for unaccompanied minors. So they don't know what the fuck they're doing.
QD Moore, thank you for giving me your points for an owl.
And that was probably on purpose because they don't want these kids to be represented. So I read through the filing briefly. There are a number of cases that they highlight, but the baby one is the most egregious. So there was, so in the baby one, there was an attorney from the USCRI present, but the attorney quote, the attorney did not speak up, let alone suggest that it is facially absurd to ask an unrepresented baby to do anything, despite knowing the baby would be ordered deported if unable to file a completed application by the next hearing. They weren't represented, but the organization that was supposed to be representing them had an attorney present who just sat there silently as the judge was like, hey, baby, fill out your paperwork.
I just have to ask, the judge that did that, did they think at all through any of what was going on there? Like, did they...
I don't know.
Like, what do you think was going through that person's head?
There is surprisingly little about this judge. There's surprisingly little about this story. I could only find it from one organization. It's a news org called Not Us. I'm not sure. Because I could only find it from one organization that I hadn't heard of before, I did some background digging on the organization. They seem to be trustworthy, and they link to the actual court filing that this comes from. So it's not like this is not a thing that's happening that they just made up. This is actually, like, it being a 1-year-old baby is right in the legal brief, or in the court filing. So I don't know why this isn't getting more coverage than it is. It's completely absurd. So yeah, on July 31st, a contract between the federal government and a network of nonprofits that provided legal services ended, and that's when the government renewed the contract. So the end of that contract led to a legal dispute, and they redid the contracts with USCRI. They got $20 million, and the Our Rescue thing, the sex pest protecting organization, got $158 million.
Why is this country what it is? Like, I know the answer is fascism. The actual answer is fascism. But that answer is not satisfying to me.
Mm-hmm. So from what I could tell from reading the legal brief, and again, I ain't no law talking guy, take my interpretation here with a grain of salt, but the impression that I got is that these organizations that have the new contracts, the initial issue was that, like, okay, well, there's all this money that's set aside for legal representation for these kids, and it's still just being held by the government. It's not been released. And then the government was like, okay, we have released the money. And that was when they sent it to these two organizations. And so this filing is like, okay, they've released the money, but they ain't doing shit with it. So what happened? Like, yeah, they released the money so that they could comply with the injunction. But is it really representing a child to have the judge order a baby to file paperwork? Well, the person that's supposed to be representing him sits there in complete silence?
Yeah, no.
That is the impression that I got from the legal filing. So, in court declarations, attorneys and leaders of the nonprofits that previously were contacted to represent the children say they've witnessed USCRI attorneys remain mum during immigrant children's court proceedings. The deputy director of Florence Immigrant and Refugee Rights Project described in a court filing the incident the nonprofit witnessed on Tuesday when a 1-year-old appeared unrepresented. In another instance, on August 6th, an unaccompanied minor without legal representation in California court requested to voluntarily leave the country while the USCRI attorney present didn't say anything. So that one, that's one where, so the attorney that was supposed to be representing the kid wasn't doing anything. The kid was like, yeah, I'm going to voluntarily deport. I don't know how old this kid was. Now, if you're unfamiliar with voluntary deportation, if you agree to that, you are now agreeing to forfeit all of your rights and any access to any of the asylum programs or anything that the United States offers. As soon as you say, yes, I'll take voluntary deportation, you have now forfeited any right to access to any of that stuff. So one of the attorneys from the organization that used to do this was present for that one and stood up and was like, hey, judge, this kid doesn't know what he's doing. Can we get a continuance until he has time to consult with an actual lawyer? And the judge was like, yes, continuance granted. And the fact that they need an attorney to stand up and do that, and they're not just like looking around being like, this child clearly doesn't have an in-depth understanding of the law.
Also, So, person who's been banned in my chat decided to come in as a ban-evader and try to say, I think you mean democracy, not fascist there, my guy. So, I'm just going to get a couple things out of the way here. First of all, fascism is not a government type so much as it is an ideology that is over a government. Because the government type would be a dictatorship, typically. Secondly...
I mean, Hitler was democratically elected.
Yeah. Secondly, we are, in fact, yes, a republic that uses democracy. That is what we are, by definition. Now, I've talked about this in the past, and I will talk about it once more. There is this concept called a pseudo-democracy. And a pseudo-democracy is, in fact, fascism. But it is a style of fascism that is very, very hard to pin down as fascism. Because a pseudo-democracy looks a whole hell of a lot like a regular democracy. It uses all of the same principles. It even argues that it is the same thing. An illiberal democracy, I use pseudo-democracy now because everybody kept bitching about me using illiberal democracy, so I stopped using the technically correct term and started using the term that people feel is better because it does technically work better for communication. But a pseudo-democracy or an illiberal democracy tries to argue that it is a democracy, uses a lot of the same trappings, has a lot of the same governmental systems, but is actually controlled by some other means. So, as an example, an oligarchy that has a government set up like ours is an illiberal democracy. It uses the trappings of democracy to look a lot like democracy, but in reality, it is the businesses with lobbying money that actually get to write the laws. Mm-hmm. Same thing here. I am there. Ood, thank you for redeeming your points for an OWAL. So we'll just get that out of the way. Fascism, ideology, democracy, government type, illiberal democracy, our actual current government type. If you need clarifications on all those. And if you ever try to do the whole, well, are you going to actually define fascism? Congratulations. You've fallen for the actual ruse of fascism. Fascism being a broad, self-contradictory ideology is built into its systems. It is what it is part and parcel meant to be. So...
Okay, I'm being correct in the chat. Hitler was not technically democratically elected, but he was appointed as chancellor through the democratic process that they had in place in Germany at the time. Point is, they had a democracy and they were fascist while still being democratic for a while. He was elected to the parliament. He wasn't elected as chancellor.
Maybe I'll have to do another video on illiberal democracy and fascism and all these words that people seem to keep getting fucking wrong. Maybe.
Well, that's where you lose the people like me that are like, I don't know what the label is, but here's my positions.
Yeah, unfortunately, the label's necessary for clear communication. I know. So
it's like when you get into video games and you have like the roguelite Metroidvania, Sparkle Donkey, whatever the fuck. Sorry, Sparkle Donkey is a brand of tequila. I don't know how that snuck in there. I don't even drink tequila.
There's just a tequila worm piloting your brain, Ratatouille style.
No, you know what it is that I was talking to No Illusions on the weekend, and he is big into video games, and the subject of video game genres came up, and he has, like, he can roll off the tongue of, like, oh, yeah, no, this new game is a blah, 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 and list, 7 different genres.
Most gamers can.
Yeah, but the reason I went to Sparkle Donkey is because they had a sponsorship with Sparkle Donkey Tequila for a while, and Sparkle Donkey let them just, like, absolutely go nuts with it. Like, there were several ad spots where it's like, Sparkle Donkey, the tequila for fucking your dad, and like, stuff like that. They haven't done one in a while, so I feel like they went too far eventually. But
I mean, at that point, yeah. Asina says RFK Rhino? Yeah, he's a different worm, though.
Yeah. So, Richard DeBanny, an ORR official, I'm not sure what ORR is, I think that's the organization that is
what?
I think that's one of the government organizations that's like managing this shit. I'm not sure. I'm sure it said it earlier in the article that I missed it. But they told the court last week that the USCRI attorneys were providing coverage for all the hearings of the 1,800 kids in the office's care. So yeah, these are the government people that are like, yeah, no, we're coordinating things. Yeah, they all have representation. It's just sometimes the representation is a lawyer sits in the courtroom somewhere and doesn't say anything. And,
they're just there. They're there for the vibes.
They're just there to laugh at a baby being court ordered to file paperwork. And I saw earlier someone was asking how old the baby is. 1 year old. This is a 1-year-old. I don't even know how they get to the court, much less how they get to the court without an attorney.
Yeah.
However, it is adorable picturing a 1-year-old child sitting at the bench with like a little soother in their mouth, like the judge talking to them and them just like sitting there staring back at the judge.
I am one, and what is this?
It's like that is an adorable image, but it is not an image that we should ever have in reality. That's for movies like Boss Baby or whatever the fuck. That's not for reality.
But it is unfortunately in reality because fuck. Hey, you made it to the end. I want to give an extra thanks to the patrons who allow me to do this full time. I want to thank Aaron Rail, Astral, Britzkrieg, Jemshin, Poundini, Red Joker, Victoria, Jonas, Craig, Tarika, Fireshard, Smiling GM, John, Dren Hadamada, Creeper, Sagitta, I'm not saying that last part, Sylvie Snow, Valis of Seraph, Ottoman Angel, Rooster Rachel, and Fire Panda, who are all my $20 and up patrons.